and welcome to the second ever episode of Theatre 9 to 5. I'm your host, Ati Dikata. Today is our first play review episode, and we are reviewing Oscar Wilde's Vera or the Nihilists. Vera or the Nihilists is Oscar Wilde's first play. It is also his biggest failure.
Biggest failure!
The play is loosely based on the life of Marxist and revolutionary Vera Zasulich. I really hope I pronounced that right. And when the play was first staged in 1883 at the Union Square Theatre in New York City, it closed after only 1 week of performances. At the time of its creation, Tsar Alexander II was involved with struggles and revolutionaries in Russia. There were multiple assassination attempts, and there was one very successful one. Although none of the characters in Oscar's play relate directly to any actual Russian people, everyone would have been aware of the struggles in Russia at the time, perhaps making the play itself a little too much on the nose for the public. But the reviews of the production vary from outstandingly fantastic to just plain mean. The New York Mirror described it as among the highest order of plays, masterly, and the noblest contribution to its literature the stage has received in years. But then things take an awfully big turn. Long drawn-out dramatic rot, says the New York Herald. Wearisome, says the New York Times. Little better than fizzle, said the New York Tribune. But I'm afraid Punch had the winner here when it described the play as, from all accounts, except the poet's own, Vera bad. And since its original production, Vera or the Nihilists is very rarely revived. Gee, I wonder why. No, seriously, why? Having read over the play a couple of times over the past 2 weeks, I started to draw some conclusions of my own. Fair enough, the play may have been a bit too topical for the public at the time, but the reviews kind of tell a different story. Every play has good and bad reviews, that's just the nature of things. So, was there another possibility? Perhaps. I read that the owner of the theatre wished for Oscar Wilde to lecture between the 5 acts of the play, hoping to draw more of a crowd. Oscar was a very popular public speaker, after all, and was renowned as an eccentric storyteller. Kinda clear that Oscar had different wishes. I think this may be a possible reason as to why the play shut after only 1 week, but who knows? The ongoing battle between business and art, will it ever cease? The play is categorized as a melodrama, but does that mean it has to be performed as one? Of course, there are elements of melodrama in the play, especially with scenes dealing with the upper classes. Of course, was the style at the time, particularly with Oscar Wilde. But that doesn't mean that it has to be performed with straight posture, pinky out, snooty attitude, and a silver spoon in the mouth. Although it does sound nice. The character of Prince Paul is one to mention for his obscene and disgusting yet highly educated tongue. Experience. The name men give to their mistakes. I never make any. Now you can totally envision some douchebag businessman saying that outside of Wall Street, or even a public politician in government. The people and their rights bore me. I am sick of both. In these modern days, to be vulgar, illiterate, common, and vicious seems to give a man a marvellous infinity of rights that his honest fathers never dreamed of. It's actually kind of hard not to do that in a posh upper-class accent now that I'm doing it. And yet again, you can't tell me that you can't picture someone you know today saying such things. And again, the play could have been slotted into this category for other reasons. Oscar Wilde himself was an eccentric, flamboyant, and whimsical character, who even told jokes at his own prison sentencing. You're talking about a man whose last words were supposedly, My wallpaper and I are in a duel to the death. One or the other of us has got to go. Also, melodramatic plays were very popular at the time, and it is quite possible that it was shoehorned into the melodrama category for business purposes. For whatever reason isn't really important. The fact of the matter is, Vera or the Nihilist covers many serious current topics that even Oscar Wilde himself may not have seen coming. And it is my personal belief that this play has indeed gotten better with age. Personally, I draw issue with what I have dubbed a direct replication in the world of theatre. More on that on a later episode. But this play has so many familiar themes and addresses social issues that are very applicable to us today. Applicable is a very hard word for me to say, and I got through it. Civil violence and unrest, extreme activism, government conspiracy, political division, feminism, fake news, and misinformation, to name but a few. Vera or the Nihilist has all of these elements which are as true to us today, like today, as they were in the 19th century. The advantage that Vera or the Nihilist has over contemporary plays dealing with the same issues is it would perform as a metaphor to the audience due to its setting, and a theatre wouldn't risk beating an audience over the head with information that they already possess and feelings that they already have. Again, more on that on a later episode. On a later episode? In a later episode. More on that. Here are a few honourable mentions from the character, the Tsar, that shoot just a little too close to home in regards to how we think politicians deal with us today. When talking about the morning's hangings, I would to God that this people had but one neck, that I might strangle them all with one noose. When the mother of the victims curses the name of the Tsar in the crowd, she should have blessed me for having rid her of her children. Send her to prison. No, I'm too merciful myself. Send her to Siberia. She is sure to die on the way. And when the Tsar is told those prisons are too full, they don't die fast enough then. You should put more of them into one cell at once. There was a particular speech from Vera in Act 1 which really stood out more as a contemporary statement than that of a classical play. Oh, to think what stands between us and freedom in Europe. A few old men, wrinkled, feeble, tottering dotards whom a boy could strangle for a ducat, or a woman stab in a night time. And these are the things that keep us from democracy, that keep us from liberty. But now methinks the brood of men is dead, and the dull earth grown sick of childbearing. Else would no crowned dog pollute God's air by living. Now, that is a bit extreme, and I'm a firm believer in the saying, two wrongs don't make a right. The tragedies suffered by either side are both brought on by violence and dangerous ideologies, and this is a very powerful message that the play conveys, as both parties are nearly as guilty and corrupt as one another. I think recent events from our own lives have proven that we haven't come very far in nearly 130 years, unfortunately. We still get lost in our ideas, whether they be good or bad. The play shows us that no matter how good-willed a person may be, they are always in danger of becoming just as bad as their enemy, and more often than not, they don't even see it. This small speech given by Vera is not unlike anything we heard in recent years. And it's quite shocking to see the very words we say today still resonate in modern times, particularly from a play that's over 130 years old. Aye, there's the rub. Although this is an Oscar Wilde play, it doesn't read like one. Or it doesn't have to, is what I should say. Sometimes when we think of Wilde, we automatically jump to pompous, flamboyant and poshness, much like we do with Shakespeare. But this is a different side to Wilde. Perhaps that's just me looking at it through a modern lens, I don't know. It teeters back and forth between dirty, gritty, nasty stuff to incredibly funny, romantic, and hopeful at times. If you haven't read the play yet, I strongly, strongly recommend that you do. It's a great play to immerse yourself in. It really does get the creative juices flowing. It's full to the brim with amazing monologues for students and also for audition material. And the best thing about it is these monologues aren't done that often because the play is very rarely revived. But they are fucking fantastic monologues. It is chock-a-block full of them. And as I said in our last episode, it's in the public domain. I'll put a link in the description below. There's really no excuse not to read this. So, stick it on the pile, pull up your socks, and read a play. Thank you for joining me this evening. Hello everyone, I just wanted to thank you again for joining me for our second episode. Honey, what date is it going to be 2 weeks from now?
No. 2 weeks from today?
2 weeks from today.
Oh, I think Monday is the 1st. So, 3rd, 10th?
10th? Please tune in again for our third episode. It's going to be another topical episode, so it'll be theatre versus hot topics. So again, that will be on the 13th of February. I look forward to seeing you. And also a little celebration. Before I even posted my first video, we had 111 likes and followers. I didn't even do anything. It's amazing. See you next time. And always remember, stick it on the pile, pull up your socks, and read a play.